we always talk about, what's the best match of all time in wrestling. Everyone's like, what's the best indie match? What's the best death match and everything? No one really does. What is the best British match that's ever taken place? So I typed it in. I thought there'll be people who have got nothing. The closest that I could find was a list from the UK wrestling magazine FSM, which is Fighting Spirit magazine. What they did in their final issue was they did a list of the top 50 matches to ever take place in Britain. Now, the lists are subjective, but I would say there is no mention of Dynamite Kid on this list, and there is no mention of Mark Rollerball Rocco, which seems to me a little bit of an oversight. Lists are always subjective. Sorry, that would have been 51. But for example, further down the list, there's Ultimate Warrior versus Macho Man Randy Savage from SummerSlam 92.
Right.
A match that really nobody thinks of as being a great match.
No, I think at the time, what an honour that they're here.
Yeah,
they're doing everything here.
Exactly that. But it's not by anyone's rule of thumb a great match. The actual number one match, because it will be annoying to hear about this and not know what it is, was Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson, which took place in Ring of Honor. I think it was in Liverpool. The second best was Shingo Takagi versus Susumu Yokosuka.
Good old solid British names.
As part of Dragon Gate UK. So what surprised me is there was no mention of Dynamite Kid and Rocco. But it did make me think, okay, well, that's interesting. There's a list. What I found under that was a tweet from William Regal. And William Regal had got in contact with Fighting Spirit magazine when they put this top 50 British wrestling matches out.
I love that.
And he said, I'm sorry to bring this up, but it's true and important. The most important match, considering so many matches on the top 50 British bouts just follow the style, is Mark Rocco versus Marty Jones from 78. They started the 1980s junior style in the 70s in the UK. So I'm not going to say, everyone's got an opinion, mate. He's William Regal. There's an argument to be made that he is the most important British export wrestler at a time when British wrestling was on its arse. He was the one man who was flying the flag for that traditional world of sport style. As his career went on, people were like, he wrestles unlike anyone else and it's magical. And people began looking at world of sport. And then it was a renaissance of sorts. So the match itself, this match that took place is Mark Rocco versus Marty Jones. It took place for 2 belts. So Marty Jones held the light heavyweight championship and Mark Rocco held the heavy middleweight championship. There was enough of a gap that the two of those were different weight belts, which of course is how we did it. We used to do it in Britain on weight, but that they could both challenge for each other's because one had bulked up and the other had slimmed down. The match between them took place at Woking. It was in 1978 and it's been uploaded onto YouTube by the brilliant British wrestling historian John Lister. He's uploaded it from one of the sort of cable TV channels that briefly showed World of Sport, a couple of year periods where they were on.
There's a lovely moment in the middle of it where it cuts to an ad break and Sheila's wheels on there.
I know.
It's on, Sheila's wheels.
Now, because no advertisers targeted wrestling and these channels were pretty much doing audiences in the maybe low hundreds, there was no advertising spend. So whenever you used to watch World of Sport, the adverts in between in the 2004-5 would always be for companies that just went, we'll have those free as well. So you'd get over 50s life insurance, debt management, car finance, and that Sheila's Wheels advert for car insurance for women. Why are you advertising female-specific car insurance in the middle of wrestling
that
from
seems
1978?
like a massive misstep, doesn't it? Yeah.
That is really just we'll give you that free. We'll put it in, bulk it up. It really was depressing advertising watching this sort of wrestling because it would come on and you just sort of go, I am a big loser. I am the furthest thing from ABC One that television has ever known.
Have you been injured, had an accident at work, or on the road, or in a public place? Unsure if you have a claim for compensation? Concerned about hidden charges? Now, there is no need to worry.
Marty Jones, interesting guy. Within wrestling, master wrestler. He was born in Oldham in Lancashire and he's slightly boss-eyed. So one of his eyes goes in, but you can never quite tell which one it is because when you think you've got it, you'll notice it's the other one. It depends which way he's looking and then it makes it very confusing. I'm not saying he needs to give me a system.
Just choose one.
It's up to him. He can live his eye life as he sees fit. He was bullied at school and so his dad sent him to wrestling school while he was just in his early teens.
To be a fake tough guy.
Well, I mean, back in those days, he was trained by 3 legitimate legendary shooters. So they were the same guys who trained the Dynamite Kid. They were Ted Betley. There's Billy Robinson, who was one of the great shooters of the 70s, had a good American career. And also Billy Riley, who was the owner of the Snake Pit Gym in Wigan, where so many of these brilliant shooters came out of.
Right.
He debuted in 1972, and he first beat Rocco for the British light heavyweight title in 1976. And they would continue throughout their careers to have matches against each other for the next 15 years. I think on YouTube there's one from as late as 1988, only a couple of years before Rocco retired. They had this career-long rivalry. Fit Finlay was the other big career rival that he had. So basically from the late 80s all the way through to the 90s, his main events with Fit Finlay were all over the country, and they were working at a super, super high level. In the 90s, he became a successful landlord at the Angel Pub in Royton near Oldham. And he is now a trainer. He runs his own training school. And he's done a lot of the NXT UK stars have come through, sort of Marty Jones. He does seminars and things like that. In his early days, he also trained William Regal. So Marty Jones did a lot of work with Regal when Marty Jones was quite an established star and Regal was just starting out. In his autobiography, Walking a Golden Mile, Regal said he is one of the best wrestlers you'll ever see. It's what we call a great worker. He's wrestled in some of the best matches I've ever seen. But he's also got a Twitter account as Marty Jones. He's not been on for a couple of years. Previously, he tweets in all caps, which is the sort of thing an older gentleman will do. A lot of his tweets would sort of be, I've got a seminar coming up. You want to get down there? And a lot of them are signed off, all the best, Marty. I took one here, which I did like, which is he'd contacted Natty Neidhart, the Natalia Neidhart, the WWE superstar, when she put up a photo of herself with her dad, Jim Neidhart, the Anvil, prior to his dying. And Marty Jones had written, "Hi Natty," capitals. "Would you kindly pass on our," capitals, "regards to your dad," capitals, "and tell him I," capitals, "visited the Dynamite Kid," he's missed out a T, caps, "this week and reminisced on our Calgary," caps.
Calgary?
He means Calgary.
Oh, right. Okay.
"Days. Obviously all the hearts and Jim," caps, "was mentioned. Yours in sport," caps.
Yours in sport.
"Marty Jones UK."
Yay! Shall I put your mum on?
So William Regal is saying this is the best British wrestling match of all time. Are you going to disagree with William Regal, babe?
No, I'm not. It was really good. There were no fuck-ups. Nothing was wasted. No botches. It was just from start to finish a really, really solid technical match. Once it starts to get the end, it builds. And Rocco, some of his flips are fucking insane. And some of the flips you don't see, ever.
No,
There's one where he gets flipped from miles across the ring, and then they do it again, and he gets flipped against the turnbuckle, upside down.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's landed right in his head. He hasn't. He's caught himself, but it looks really like he's landed on his head.
He sort of does
like really stiff.
As he's flying,
body.
as he comes off the turnbuckle, he sort of does a headstand without any hands.
It's perfect.
It's amazing. And now I'd watched a previous battle between the two of them, and he does that exact same spot in it, and it's spectacular. I don't know how it's done.
No.
There was a monkey flip, and he got flipped halfway across the ring, and he goes so high in the sky, Rocco, and he lands on his back, but then he bounces up again about 3 foot, just off his back.
Yeah.
And that can only be just by going, I'm going to jump so high that when I bounce off the mat, it'll be 3 feet. There's no way you can make your muscles take you off the thing.
No.
I mean, the sacrifice. And it looked spectacular. I loved this match. I mean, the reason I loved it is there is nothing here but wrestling. And this is two people that the build is amazing. It's just amazing. As it starts off, it all looks legitimate. And it really looks like, you know, at this time, people are sort of, wrestling's all a big fix. But you'd watch this and go, maybe not this one. You know, they treat it like sport. They're feeling each other out. There's really sort of good arm work at the start. And it just begins to build and build and build. By the time they get to round 4, there develops a storyline, which is that Jones's leg is being targeted by Rocco. And they just keep that going throughout the whole thing. It's not just abandoned. They don't forget it. It becomes an integral part of the match. The speed that they seem to increase as it goes on is a really clever way of just building and building and building. So they begin coming off the ropes. They are going faster than flat out. They come off absolutely speedy. When you see stuff like that, you go, why doesn't everybody do it like this? The answer is you can't. You know, these two are really, really good at it. And what you see here is the wonder as well of Kent Walton, who is the commentator.
Clenched fist to the stomach there. Beautiful taking on an arm roll again. And Marty Jones, now we see what he meant in the last round by saying, if you want to play that way, we'll both do it. And this is what he's doing now.
But it's like a snooker commentary.
It's absolutely like
So
snooker
quiet.
commentary. You can
So very
you can
quiet.
picture him at the back with his mic watching it. And he's got that. And here they are, the two of them, coming in for this round. It's just such a good way of doing it. The intimacy of it is so wonderful. I mean, he has that thing where he does a backslide pin, which I think Kent Walton calls a folder. Like, caught him with a folder, he says, and he just goes, absolute beauty. And I love that whole thing of going, what you are watching is two elite athletes performing like an intricate series of almost like chess-like moves. And you've got Kent Walton just saying, well, that's absolutely beautiful. I could not get enough of it. I would love to hear Kent Walton doing commentary over Necro Butcher versus Samoa Joe. I think it would be so absolutely landed right on his bonds there. Coming out like thick jammy jam.
Cascading red waterfall from the man's head.
Why Marty Jones isn't talked about in the same way as we talk about Rocco and Dynamite Kid and Fit Finlay is that he slightly has a blank face. That is the thing that he doesn't seem to be able to quite emote. So people in both matches are very much against Rocco, but they seem to be more pro Marty Jones because he's up against Rocco, and they're using their pro Marty Jones to hurt Rocco more because they hate him.
Okay, here's a message for all Marty Jones fans out there. Turn your TV set off right now, because you're not going to like what's going to happen to your blue-eyed boy. I'm not going to be happy just beating him. I want to be happy when I've destroyed him and I've torn him into little pieces. All the fans out there in the fan club, they'll want to get a little piece of him. I'll put them in envelopes and I'll send them to him, parcel post. Keep watching, that's what's going to happen to Jones.
The British wrestling fans out there keep telling us about the great matches we used to have. I remember them well, they were good battles. But this afternoon, no messing about. I'm going to wipe you out at the first attempt. I don't want you hanging around me. I want you out of the way, the first attempt. And what more, you people out there, don't brew up. You might miss it.
But in this St Albans one that I watched, he has a little perm, which thankfully he's not got for the title match. He's got a kinky little blonde perm. He just shows no emotion. There's a bit at the end where Rocco has beaten him, and Marty sort of goes, "Listen, Rocco," he says, in his Lancashire flatness, he goes, "I'll beat you for once and for all, Rocco. Double championship. Winner takes all." And the ring announcer just turns to him and he says, "That sounds like a good idea, Marty." like he's a sort of slightly slow child. And there's a bit of push. This ends with Marty Jones winning the belt from Rocco. He actually wins on a count out. So he throws Rocco over the top. They both split a fall, and they throw Rocco over the top rope. But, badly outside the ring, says Kent Walton. And Rocco is counted out in round 8, losing the belt. I suppose that count out finish, even though that was a way that you could lose a title in Britain, what it did was it kept Rocco strong. You just sort of went, had it not been for that, he wasn't roundly defeated.
Yeah.
Marty Jones won both belts, but he immediately gave up the belt he just won. He kept his light heavyweight championship and gave away the British middleweight one, which you might ask yourself, why bother? But I suppose he wanted to hurt Rocco, and that is the personal pride element of it. If you get a chance, just sit down, treat yourself. There are some playlists that will just take you through 15 years of these two guys just having matches against each other.
And it's just nice to sort of see like people in their corners, like it's a boxing match, and the one in Marty Jones's area looks like a Jarvis Cocker kind of nerd.
He does.
It's just very enjoyable. And like the referees back then, obsessed with the boots, obsessed with what's happening with their boots.
Yeah.
Like, what are they expecting? Like knives on the bottom or something? They always make them check the
It
boots.
would be fine
It's
if
kind
you
of
could-
forgotten by like 95. This sort of thing,
Yeah,
checking
if
the
you
boots.
could go back and sort of go, what is the reason we checked the boots?
Checking
And
the
they
boots.
went, do you remember in the first wrestling match, there was that guy and he had a razor blade in the end, but yeah, obsessed with boots, obsessed with knee pads. There's a bit where Mark Rocco as well, he's given a plastic bottle of water.
It looks like it's got terps in it. Those
Doesn't
kind
it?
of old school 80s bottles that like you just don't see anymore because they're just...
That would have been like a soda stream concentrate bottle, and it's been, scrubbed out and given to him. But I bet back then you'd have gone, this is a top flight sport. They've given him his own bottle of water.
That's almost 2 litres.
And they give it to Rocco. He puts it in his mouth. He spits it straight onto the canvas. There's no bucket.
No.
He doesn't go, I'll go do it in the corner. He just puts it in his mouth and goes right over the middle of the ring. I thought, you dirty devil. He's such a phenomenal performer. I think he's one of absolute best in the world. Anytime you see him, he is 30% better than you remember him being, even if you remember him being incredible.